Greetings of the day. Today we shall discuss about overview of IELTS, what it is and why take it. Firstly, with regard to overview of your IELTS. IELTS is an international English language testing system which is co-owned by IDP, British Council and Cambridge University Press is all examinations. So with regard to IELTS, what is its overview? When it comes to any language test, especially international English examinations, whether it be IELTS or TOEFL or PTE or OET, so you have a set pattern actually. They usually aim to test your English skills in two ways. One is how good you are at understanding English and how good you are at expressing English. So when it comes to understanding your English skills, that is mostly checked with listening and reading. Further by that, if they wanted to check how good you are at expressing yourself in English, that is obviously assessed with writing and speaking. Okay, so when it comes to listening, you'd be expecting 40 questions in total of 4 sections. So obviously you'd be having multiple choice questions, maps or pictures, or they may be choose the right letter kind of questions or fill in the blanks. So these all can be expected in your examination. Obviously in IELTS, we need to listen to the recording and mark our answers at the same time. You don't have any separate time to mark your answers. But once you are done with marking your answers, you'd be transferring all the answers separately to an answer sheet for which they'd be providing you 10 minutes extra time. However, for computer delivered tests, they don't do that. They obviously won't be providing any answer sheet separately. So you have to mark everything there itself on the screen. Further by this, what is reading? When it comes to reading, you'd be listening to, you'd be checking a text that is nothing but a passage, and based on the passage, there'll be 13 to 14 questions for every section. So we need to mark each of the questions based on the passage or the instructions given for the questions. Altogether, you'd be expecting 40 questions in a total of 3 sections. The time here for reading would be 60 minutes, whereas listening, that is approximately half an hour. That depends on the rate of speech of speakers mostly. Now, when it comes to writing, you'd be having 2 tasks. One is task 1 and another is task 2. So task 1 is usually considered as report writing for IELTS academic candidates. That is nothing but converting picture information into language. It can be a pie chart or a bar graph or production process or flow chart. Something like a picture with data mostly is given where you are supposed to convert that information into language with appropriate tense at the same time. So you are supposed to write or type at least 150 words within 20 minutes. Whereas for IELTS general training candidates, this task 1 is usually a letter writing. So what is letter writing? You might expect for general training a letter in the form of formal or informal or semi-formal tone. So we are supposed to address that in again same at least 150 words within 20 minutes. Further by that, you'd be expecting writing task 2, which is usually termed as discursive essay writing. So here they'd be giving a statement mostly, and you are supposed to argue about that statement. That is how far you agree with that statement and so on. So there are different types of essays. However, we'll discuss about them later. Next, when it comes to this speaking is usually scheduled on a separate day for pen and paper test. Whereas for computer delivered test, speaking is obviously on the same day. So what happens with speaking? Speaking, whether it be pen and paper or computer delivered test, there is always a face-to-face interview. Sometimes you might also expect it as a live interview through online. So here, when it comes to speaking in your IELTS, you have 3 parts, part 1, 2 and 3. Part 1 is usually termed as introduction and interview. So they'll be putting you some general questions for which you have to give a short answer within just 20 seconds or so. You might be expected questions mostly about your hometown, what you do, your hobbies or interests. So these kind of questions are usually touched in part 1. This runs for around 3 to 4 minutes. Followed by this, you'll be expecting part 2, which is usually an individual long turn. What is individual long turn? Here they'll be giving you a topic card. You need to prepare on the topic for about 1 minute and speak about that for at least 2 minutes. Say you are given a question like, who's your favorite teacher in school? What is his or her name? What subject does he or she teach? And what qualities do you like in that person? That is something printed on a small cue card or an A4 sheet, whatever it be. So this is the content usually as a sample. Now you need to prepare on this for 1 minute. The examiner doesn't disturb you for 1 minute. So you can make some rough notes also. Further by this, after this 1 minute, you have to speak non-stop for up to 2 minutes, right? So that's an uninterrupted speech from your side. Well, so roughly about after 2 minutes, the examiner stops and they'll be moving on to part 3. So what is part 3? This is usually termed as two-way discussion. So when it comes to two-way discussion, the examiner puts you more of opinion-based questions or questions which require your suggestions or questions which require comparisons. Here in part 3 you might be expecting all this stuff. So this can run around 4 to 5 minutes. So these all depend on length of your answers. If your answers are lengthy, you'd be expecting lesser questions. If you give short and crisp answers, you might expect even more questions. Done? Now, why take IELTS? IELTS academic is usually intended for university students, whereas IELTS general training is mostly for immigration purpose. Well, further by this, when we discuss about this what is it or why take IELTS and so on, we still have many more questions actually here, isn't it? So when it comes to what is IELTS listening, what is IELTS reading, why do people face trouble with IELTS reading many times, why do people keep on retaking this test multiple times for IELTS reading only, and what makes writing task very tough, why am I getting stuck only at 5.5 even after taking multiple attempts, even after I prepare thoroughly for my exam, why am I not able to crack my IELTS? So you might be having a number of questions, and how to practice myself when it comes to writing or speaking, how can I assess myself, or when it comes to listening or reading, so why am I not able to do this choose a right letter kind of questions, why is it taking more time for me, why am I not able to fulfill all the requirements within that stipulated time? So to address all these questions, we'll be further checking in other videos. Thank you.